too. So do you want to? Okay. And that way we'll have a little bit better.
I'm recording.
So, my name's Mary Kay. I'm the director of the library here. And Joe is a biking buddy. And he has done amazing things with traveling around Lewis County and inspired me to get a gravel bike and start exploring a little bit myself. So I'm very excited about this. So I hope you all enjoyed tonight's program. We also have lots of other programs at the library. We do yoga every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock and chair yoga. And we also have a Scrabble club that meets once a month. And so we do lots for adults and for kids and littles. So come join us and grab a calendar, check out our Facebook page and our website. And but you'll be so busy riding your bikes that you probably won't have to, because this will be very inspiring. So thank you, Joe.
Mary Kay, did you just blame me for your buying a new bike?
Yes.
That's your excuse? You should have waited until he came in the room before you did that. All right, thanks. I am Dr. Quallen. It's my pleasure to be here. I want to give some background on my biking history. Of course, I rode bikes when I was a child, like we all do, but I kind of never gave it up. When I got to college, I didn't really want to bring my car, so I bought a new bike, but it was a department store bike and a heavy steel piece of junk. Nonetheless, I thought since I had a new bike, I should join the bike club, so I did. Whereupon I got left behind on every ride for the entire first semester until my legs got in shape, and then I bought a real bike. So this is my bike. This is probably 1983 here. This is my Univega Gran Turismo. Sadly, sold it. But I do have now a reincarnation of this bike, which I restored from an old geeter that I bought across the state. Anyway, this is me and my roommate Carl Sprung, ready to go on our first bike packing trip in Southern California, and it was quite an adventure. And for those who are curious, that helmet is called a skid lid. They were quite popular back in the day. They did have big openings in them, so if you hit some kind of stick or something, it'd probably kill you. But if you notice the chin strap, it's the same one that the stormtroopers wear in Star Wars. Yeah. Getting on this thing. Then in grad school, I transitioned to a mountain bike, which was great in Colorado because there were lots of trails. I used to go riding with my friends that had horses, things like that. It was a wonderful time. And then I had to graduate and join the real world. It's terrible, right? Had to get a real job after 10 years in higher education. But I would typically do relatively short mountain bike rides, usually on a Sunday morning, 12, 20 miles, something like that. But nothing serious, just to keep my legs in it. And that was, of course, during the warmer parts of the year. Then in 2015, for those of you who remember, we were supposed to have the Peddlers Jamboree. Not the Peddlers Jamboree, it was the Big Bam.
Yeah.
The first Big Bam was going to end in Canton, and I was on the committee for that. I was actually the chair of the committee for that. We planned the whole ending of the Big Bam here. And long story short, it rained so hard they could not actually ride the last day. The roads were flooded. They couldn't get here through any reasonable route. But anyway, the people that put on Big Bam also put on the Peddlers Jamboree, so I found out about it and I started doing that. Done it every year since. It's a really fun ride on the Katy Trail, 2 days. And then the following year, the Big Bam was going to end in Hannibal, so I thought, well, we should do that. So me and my daughter Savannah, which some of you know, decided to ride it. It was our first big bike tour. It was 5 or 6 days across the entire state of Missouri. So we had to buy road bikes, and I hadn't had a road bike in 20 years at that point. But, I found one anyway. So we started doing that, and I did 4 of those, and then I started doing RAGBRAI, and I did 4 of those, and then got some other riding buddies. I did the Oklahoma Freewheel a couple of years ago. That was a really fun one. And this past summer, I did the Pedal Across Lower Michigan, which was also quite nice. So I've been riding actually more in my older age than I did in my youth. I also have been fortunate to lead a number of study abroad trips for Quincy University. And when I do that, I try to sneak in a bike ride one way or another. One year in the Galapagos, we had a nice mountain bike ride down the volcano, which was a lot of fun, but I don't have a picture of that. I do have a picture of me in Rio de Janeiro. That's the beach there. Fantastic, isn't it? All right. And then another trip to Barcelona, also riding from downtown onto the beach on probably a 3-speed. You know, when you're renting bikes, you don't get, necessarily the choice you would like, but adequate for the conditions. All right, so to the point at hand, riding Lewis County. I got the idea because I read an article about some people who had ridden every street in St. Louis, which is a pretty big task, as you can imagine, and it took them a number of years to do it. And these ideas bounced around in my head, and I thought, well, I could do every road in Canton. No, that would be pretty easy. So I decided to do every road in Lewis County. That was back in 2023. The advantages are that Lewis County is a really small county, right? If you look at a map of Missouri or just about anywhere, it's not very big. There are no large cities in the county, which would add a lot to the mileage and difficulty. I'd already ridden a lot of them already, so wouldn't have to ride them again. At least most of the paved ones and a lot of the gravel ones too. These are almost all of the paved routes in Lewis County, the lettered paved routes plus the numbered paved routes. And it might look like there are a lot of them, but in fact, there aren't, because this is the final map of all of the roads that I ended up biking. And you can see that it's much denser than the previous map of the paved routes, which means there's a lot of gravel, right? Lots of gravel roads in Lewis County. So over the years, I used a lot of different bikes to accomplish this. My old mountain bike was a Trek Excalibur 6. I still have the Univega in my garage. It's the one I used to get my mail. Titanium bike is probably, my favorite road bike. Back. Shoot, I can only go forward. How do I go back? Swipe the other way? Ah, there we go. Thank you. The Fuji was my aluminum road bike that I had when I had to get a road bike to do the Big Bam. I still have the Kestrel. I have a fat tire bike that I gotta stop touching it. I have a fat tire bike that I've done bits of this, as you'll see, and even rode bits of it on a tandem. Stacy and I ride a tandem from time to time. And one of our practice rides was to go down to the high school and ride around the parking lot, and that counts. All right. So my first gravel bike, which I kind of knew I was going to need one to do this project. Good excuse to get one, right?
Yeah.
Got to get a gravel bike. It was this Poseidon Redwood, which is a pretty inexpensive bike, and that ended up, being a little bit of a problem, but I put an awful lot of miles on it, and it served me well for a long time until it didn't. And actually, Julian, I'm glad you're here because I bought this bike because of you. That's the bike that's right here. And I was on a ride with Julian one day, and I was like, that's a really cool bike. And he told me about it, and he got a great deal on it. And when the day came, I'm like, okay, that's the bike I'm going to get. So I got this one at Smith Brothers. It's the Cannondale Topstone 2. It's aluminum, it has hydraulic disc brakes, and some other little advantages that we'll talk about later. So after I bought that one, things got a lot easier, although I was probably 3/4 of the way done with the project already when I graduated to the better bike. All right, how did I accomplish this? Well, first of all, I had to track my rides, right? I had to know which places I'd already ridden, so that I would know which places I needed to ride. And like most of us, I use Strava, or most of us, some of us, I use Strava. It's a mechanism for tracking your workouts of different kinds. Runners use it, bicyclists use it, and by using a bike computer like this, it would record my rides, and then it would upload to Strava, and I could see my route. Then I found I could download the route in the form of a GPX file, upload that to a website called gpx.studio, which would map out the route, and it will map out multiple routes. In fact, the previous picture I showed you of all the roads in Lewis County that I've ridden was made with that. So each ride is a different color, right? Each route that we do is presented a different color. So you can load them all on there, and you can see where you've ridden, and then you can see the empty roads where you haven't ridden, right? And then you could plan your ride out. So that's what I would do. I would plan the ride out, and often I would print an actual map of the places that I needed to go, or that I planned to go. Before I started the project, I took into account the places I had already been. Since I lived in Canton, I had ridden all of these routes, and now I live out here by Highland High School, and I'd ridden a lot of this stuff already. So I didn't have to do those over again, but I ended up doing a lot of them anyway, just to get to places that I hadn't ridden before, which is one of the things that happens. So, a big project like this, how do you achieve it? How do you accomplish it? The old saying, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So one little ride at a time. And I kind of ate away at it, starting with where I live now, southwest part of the county. I just started taking little rides from my house and knocking those out. And then, after I'd done most of those, I would ride with Stacy to work, put my bike on the top of her car, get out at Quincy and ride back. And I get a lot of these in the southeast part of the county done while riding home. So that worked out pretty well. After that, I had to start driving places to get where I wanted to. So I would drive to, say, LaBelle or Deer Ridge and ride those areas. And north central part of the county, I'd drive to Williamstown or Monticello and knock out those. And a few I did leave from Canton, even though I had ridden most areas around Canton. So at the end of the first year, I had the south part of the county pretty much done. So you can see all the different colors of the places that I had been. You also notice that Lewis County is pretty thoroughly crisscrossed by roads, right? There aren't too many places that are far from a road, like out here. So then I had to work on the northern parts of the county in places where I really hadn't been, and that's part of the fun part, is that you go places that you would normally not ever go because you had no reason to go there, no business to do there, so you see a lot of things. Along the way, you find some weird stuff. For example, there'll be roads on the map that don't exist in real life. And almost no matter what map you look at. We'd also find roads that are there, but do not appear on the map. The opposite situation. Some public roads are marked private. Some have been converted legally. And on gpx.studio, a lot of the driveways will appear on the map, and you can't tell whether it's a public road or a driveway. So it kind of had to be careful there. Didn't really want to get shot or anything like that. So for example, here on GPX Studio, here's County Road 403. Looks just like any other road on there. But if you look at it on the satellite map, there's nothing there, right? It's maybe, there might be a fence there or a dirt track, but it is not a road anymore. It's been privatized. So since, the early days of the county, some of these have been converted back to basically farmland because nobody was using them, and it's, a better use of the land. This is out in the northwest corner of the county. Oops, I zoomed in. That's not what I wanted to do. Oh boy. Okay. Now, this is Sunflower Street, which is out towards LaGrange. There's Route B. Take Sunflower Street. There's a long curving thing that looks like a driveway, but it's actually a road. And it's a recent road because it should be over here, but it does not appear on the map. So that happened in a few cases where I had to kind of like, okay, I have to ride this.
Where does it take you?
Somebody's house.
But it's a road.
It's a road. It's a public road that goes to somebody. No.
And I think they even have a stone or a plaque out in front that says their name of the property, like where that thing goes. So it certainly looks like a driveway. But there is a road sign there too. I saw that.
Yeah, it's a labeled road.
Their day.
Yeah.
Well, do they have the right to put their name out there?
Doesn't say
If they own the ground it's setting on, they do.
Yeah, they do, but it's very misleading.
Well, it probably cuts down on people driving up to their house.
Or
and they
riding
want
their
driving.
bikes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I didn't ride all the way up to the house. Okay. I just got as close as I felt comfortable. And that was pretty common, if I got on a dead end road like that, or if there was a house at the end, especially if there was a large dog, I was not going to go to the end and, in the name of completing this project. The end of this road was pretty clearly marked. Huge logs. This is actually, it's actually right up here. It's not far from Canton. It's right outside of town. Yeah, big purple signs. So there, there was no doubt I was at the end of the road. For the cities and towns, I would go to the town, crisscross all the roads east and west, crisscross all the roads north and south, and then, get home, download the GPX file, plot it out, and see what I missed. Because a lot of our roads are discontinuous, right? So, a street will go a certain number of blocks and it'll end, but it'll pick up again a few blocks later. So it's easy to miss places. Plus, I wanted to get all the alleys, and some of them are kind of hard to find. So that's how I got all the roads, streets, and alleys. But I did some extra stuff. I rode some trails out at Deer Ridge and recorded those. Rode all the trails at Wakanda State Park. Rode the trails out at my house. Every cemetery I came across, I would ride all the little driveways that go through the cemetery. I did not, however, ride all of Highway 61 because it doesn't always feel safe. So, for example, here's the map after I rode Canton, and even though I lived here for 17 years, here's an alley that I missed. There's another one. There's another one, and there's another one. So, as is typical, I would have to go back to the town and pick up the little oddballs that I didn't catch the first time, and that happened just about everywhere that I went. There were some failures along the way. This is my first pair of real biking shoes, and I still have them. They're technically mountain biking shoes, but I thought they would be good for this project because, well, they've got good grip. They were already kind of old, so I didn't care if they got beaten up. But they did fall apart in the middle of a ride. Of course, that was the end of the ride. But I put them back together with shoe goo, and they still work. Shoe goo is great stuff. All right. So I did use cleats, which is much more efficient. I also had a pedal failure along the way. When you put a lot of miles on, things are going to break. But I just screwed that back on, and it was fine.
Did you fall there, or how was your foot beside it?
The pedal was still stuck to his cleat.
Oops. Yeah. This is going. Yeah, the cleat is on the edge of my. The cleat is still on God darn it.
Very stucky thing, isn't it?
It is. Boy, you just can't touch it at all. Yeah, so there's the pedal. It's attached to the cleat on my shoe, and that's my ankle. So I don't know how I'm doing that. Maybe I laid down the bike.
Came off and stayed stuck to your cleat.
Yep, exactly. That's what happened.
Huh.
Other problems I had, my first bike came with the WTB Riddlers, which are these tires. I had terrible luck with them. I was always getting flats. I would plug them, which is what you do with tubeless tires. These are, I had set them up for tubeless, which is advantageous in many ways. And finally, I got sick of them and I changed them out for Schwalbe G1 Ultrabytes, which are these right here, which have been great. Haven't had a flat yet. They have good grip, and I guess the lesson is don't be afraid to change out your equipment when it is failing you. I had one crash. There it is. Low speed on the gravel. What's curious though, you can't tell, but this road is curving to the left, and yet I fell to the right. The wheel slid out. I should have slid out to the left and fell down on this side. No, I fell on the other side. I think I overcorrected. I started to slide, and maybe that's why I went down on this side. I wasn't going really very fast. I landed on my arms. My gloves and my sleeves saved me. People ask about biking sleeves. They have many advantages. One is they keep the sun off you, and they evaporate your sweats. They keep you cool, but they can also protect you if you have impact. So I was thankful for that. It was no big deal. I got right back up and kept on riding. And no real other mishaps along the way.
Were you embarrassed?
Even though there was nobody around.
Nobody was around, so,
But he took a picture
not
of it.
quite
you
so
can
bad. Got to document. Got to document everything, right? Really didn't have too many other hazards. I encountered dogs, but none of those really chased me. Unlike recently, when I've had much more scary interactions with dogs. But considering all the dogs in Lewis County, I was pretty lucky. You know how it is. If the dogs looks old or slow, you can outrun them. But if you can't, then you gotta talk nice to them or talk mean to them, one or the other, and survive. All right, I did wear a helmet all the time. I didn't bring my helmet. I brought a bunch of other stuff. My helmet has the brim, which is an extra wide brim that basically straps to your helmet, and that keeps the sun off you so that you don't have to use so much sunscreen. It's pretty effective, except when it's really windy out. Then it acts like a giant sail, and it wants to blow off. And I ride with a mirror so I can see if people are coming behind me. Gloves and sleeves, as I mentioned. I always have a blinking light on the rear. Even though there's not much traffic on gravel, it's mostly the local farmers, and that's about it. Really traffic was never a problem. I never got close to being run over. Also with Strava, there's an option where you can use the beacon. So as soon as you start your ride, it will send a text message to your wife or your daughter or your friends or whoever, and they can track you in real time and see where you are. So if they're tracking you and you haven't moved for like an hour, maybe you're lying in a ditch, right?
Less than an hour in case.
So often she does actually watch me, but that is really advantageous. Background image is a sunflower field. I mean, you really get to see a lot of scenery, a lot of countryside if you ride all these gravels. So I did kind of enjoy that part. God, what were the kids asking for earlier?
Lions.
Lions. I did not see any lions, but I got all the things you would expect to see in Lewis County: sheep, some interesting cattle, and here we have. I'm not sure if these are llamas or alpacas. I'm thinking alpacas, but all the fun things that we have around, and they stare at you and stuff.
It's probably never seen a cyclist go by.
Well, sometimes I scared the horses, and I felt bad about that because clearly these horses had not ever seen, a bicyclist before. But gotta get used to it sometime. and wildlife. Almost never went on a ride and didn't see a deer. I mean, around here, you're going to see deer, and I saw plenty of them. I hardly ever saw a nice buck like this one, though. And this one, actually, I was stopped for some reason, and it came walking down the road straight at me. So I just stood still and took pictures as it got closer and closer, and finally it spotted me and took off. I will say, though, this past summer, I was nearly hit by a deer. I wasn't part of this project, but I was going down Route Z, and a doe came up over the embankment through the tall weeds. Probably didn't see me. Went right in front of me, about 6 feet. But I was screaming downhill at 26 miles per hour. So if I had hit her or she had hit me, it would have been a pretty bad thing for me, I'm sure. That was probably the scariest moment I've had in quite a while. Well, I hope you like snakes. At least I put them all on one slide if you don't like snakes. So snakes like to come out in the springtime and sun themselves in gravel roads. So, sorry, Tracy, I know you're the one. But I saw a lot of the diversity of snakes in Lewis County. So western ribbon snake, which looks like a garter snake, except it has a little white spot on its head. Prairie kings, which are pretty common everywhere. A naturally tame snake, you can pick them up and handle them, right out of the wild, more or less. Red-sided garter snake, another really common one, especially around water. And black rat snakes, which are also everywhere and pretty big. And they really do make themselves into this wiggly shape, and we don't really know why. I was crossing the Fabby on Route H, the North Fabby. And I stopped, as I often do, to look in the river. And I saw a family of otters upstream. So I just stayed there and watched them. And they made their way down and went right under the bridge underneath me. Unfortunately, I only had my phone camera. I didn't have my nice camera with a telephoto lens, but still got some decent photos of otters. After they crossed the other side, I moved over to look at them. Then they saw me and they scattered really quick. So, it was a lucky thing to see otters. Lots of turtles on the road, right? Everywhere you go. This is just a slider, but lots of painted turtles and the usual things. The occasional little snapper.
Impending doom if they're in the middle of the highway.
Would I?
Do you stop and move them?
Sometimes, yeah. This one was close to the edge, so I don't think I touched it. Plus, on gravel roads,
right,
there's nobody there, so just let them go their own way. Occasional insect wildlife. This is out at Deer Ridge, and this is actually a tiger swallowtail, but it's a melanic female. She's dark, but you can see her tiger stripes there. Didn't get many photos of insects though, because with the phone, it's not a really good macro camera. Rode through a wildfire, actually, a controlled burn. This was out west of my place, and yeah, riding through smoke, not too fun. Hard to breathe, but I didn't have too much choice because it was on the way home. We have some great outhouses in Lewis County, let me tell you. We got this really lovely one here out at Zion Hill Cemetery. It's got the little moon in it and everything. And in Williamstown, there are two. It's a double, right? So, more capacity. And this is right at the big intersection there of A and E.
It had a door.
What's that?
It had a door.
Yeah, I think it has a door. It might have a door that's folded back here. It's hard to tell. All right, now you get to vote for the creepiest house in Lewis County. We have lots of fixer-uppers out there that are in various states of disrepair. This one is, I think this was out by LaBelle. Real close to Highway 6, of course, in the middle of nowhere. Pretty creepy looking. Yeah. This one I can't remember where it is, but perhaps even in a worse state of decay. And this one looks pretty bad, but I wonder if somebody lives there because there's an ATV and there's a kiddie pool, so I don't know.
Weekend getaway.
Yeah, there you go. It's our summer cabin. This one, the house isn't that bad, but is that not the treehouse of terror or what? It's definitely seen better days. Not your OSHA approved playground equipment. I'll bet Chris knows where this is.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the old school house in Stephenville. It's still there.
Managed to frame it so that it doesn't look like it's in town.
Yeah, yeah. Excluded everything else. It's kind of, well, it's a little bit on the edge, but yeah, nothing else there. Yeah, it's still there.
Got a lot of glass in it still.
Yeah, surprising. I guess they don't have little kids with rocks. Oh, y'all know this one, right? This is the old workhouse in Lewis County out by the fairgrounds. And here's one for Chris. Lots of old steel bridges. Chris is really into old bridges, and that's another thing about doing these rides is you get to see a lot of them, at least the ones that are still around.
Yeah.
This one is trying to remember where it is. It's not too far from my house, I'll tell you that.
It's not too far from Monticello.
No, it's
I can't think how to tell you to get there, but
yeah.
I think that may be the last cable stay bridge in the county. I think they've taken all the rest of them out.
Anyway, this one was not the sketchiest bridge that I ever crossed. The sketchiest one is that one out by Stephenville, the one that goes west from there, I think.
Oh yeah. I don't know. I never think much about that one, but
And going through Amish country, you see a lot of really cool stuff. I didn't find any candy in the ditch, but I'm not sure what it was otherwise indicating. And I was riding through LaGrange and the Civil War broke out. So that was their encampment. I got to. They weren't doing anything at the time of this reenactment, but the people were there, and I got to see their tents and whatnot. And they had this fantastic cannon set up right in front of the river, so of course I had to put my bike in front of it and photograph it. Oh, and the article that Mary Kay had published in the Press News Journal was from this moment. Probably know that one. The old restored gas station in LaGrange. So lots of scenic things here in Lewis County. But I bet you haven't seen the plowing pig. This is, it's somebody's yard out. I think it's south of Stephenville.
I've seen that. I can't think where it is, but I've seen it.
I know how to get there, but it's it's southwest of Stephenville, I think. Lots of cool stuff. And there's
Seen that.
the Happy Shed. Things with faces.
It's like a little alarm.
Yeah, it's like so people in this county have a sense of humor, as you'll see. I really there's Bigfoot in a kitchen apron and a boonie hat, but what's amazing is that this is a gigantic cow head, which must be fiberglass or something. It's hard to tell from the perspective, but this thing is huge on the side of this shed. And this is somewhere south of where I live. Really, really middle of nowhere
I've seen that.
place. Yeah. Like I said, crazy stuff you see. This was one of my favorite spots. Mary Kay, we have to go ride this, and Cindy too. Anybody with a gravel bike, come along. This is a low water crossing out by Deer Ridge. This is actually Deer Ridge Road, I think.
It is. That used to be the Shin Bridge used to be there, and then they finally tore it out and just made a low water crossing out of it. And I've been across that on a street motorcycle.
Really?
One time to prove I could do it.
Oh my!
Get my feet wet.
That was gutsy.
Stupid.
I did cross on the gravel bike, and my feet got wet, but I did not fall over, and I crossed successfully. And I really love those. They're kind of great. I'm still disappointed that they put a bridge up over the Waiaconda down here where there used to be a low water crossing like that, because that was one of my favorite things to do. Yeah, gravel. What is gravel? Gravel is technically somewhere between sand and cobble. Cobble is anything greater than 1 inch, so a lot of this is cobble, and a lot of our gravel roads are really cobble, right? Which is a lot rougher and a lot more difficult to ride on. But when you're out on a gravel road, it can be anything, right? Because they're not really well maintained. So you might have gravel, you might have cobble, you might have mud with gigantic ruts in it. So there's a little perspective here. You can see how deep the rut is. And of course, riding in the off season, you're going to get mud and water and things like that. Lessons I learned from gravel. You know, I'd ridden gravel before, but not like this, not so intensively. First of all, gravel is harder, right? There's more resistance to the rolling of your bicycle, so it's more work. And I'd say roughly it's like twice as hard, right? So if you do 30 miles of gravel, it's like doing 60 miles of hard road. So I would plan my rides accordingly. I would never plan a 60-mile ride on gravel. I would plan, up to 40, but not beyond that. Another big thing about gravel is it's dusty, right? And you don't really think about that when you start doing it, and everything on your bike and on you gets covered with dust. So when I bought this bike, it has all these braze-ons. One of the reasons I bought it, Julian, got the braze-ons here, got 2 here, and another set on the bottom. So I bought 4 matching bottle cages. I bought 4 matching water bottles. I did not use those water bottles. Oh, once or twice, and they just get covered with dust, and you get dirt in your mouth every time you take a drink. And even the fancy ones with a little cap that goes on top to cover it so you don't get, no, you're still going to get dirt in your mouth. It's gross. So what I started doing, and ended up doing all the time, was using a Camelback. Because this rides up here, so it doesn't get full of dust, right? It's high enough off the road that you don't get dirt in your mouth whenever you take a drink. And they keep your water really cold, and they have large capacity, so it worked really well.
When you say large capacity, what's the capacity of that?
Oh, I don't know.
About half a gallon.
Is it 2 liters? Yeah,
Okay.
could be. And you can get different size ones.
Right.
I mean, you can get bigger ones, I believe. More capacity. But, yep, that worked well. Mechanical disc brakes, such as I had on my old gravel bike, are not good because you have a cable inside of a housing. So the dust gets inside of that housing and causes friction with your cable, and that caused my brakes to get really hard to pull. And I really didn't have a good solution for it. I guess I should have changed out my cables instead of buying a new bike, but hydraulic brakes are much more efficient. You have a lot more braking power, and they don't get that problem at all because they're sealed, right? You have fluid inside of a housing, and that moves back and forth, and you don't get friction on your cables because you don't have cables. Perhaps the best thing I did, the best idea I had, was this little guy right here, which is a portable bike pump. Now, they make a lot of these, but most of them are pretty small, like half this size, less than half this weight. But those little ones will only inflate your tires like 3 times. But this one is big. Now, I paid for it in weight, but it will inflate the tires many, many times. So what I would do on paved roads would be to inflate the tires to 70 psi. So the tires are firm, they're efficient, when you're riding down the road, and it's not bumpy, so that's not a problem. But if you ride 70 psi on gravel, it's like this, right? It wants to shake you apart. So what I would do is deflate the tires get them down to 35, and then the softness of the tire was like a shock absorber, right? So you get a lot smoother ride. And this thing, I don't know if my battery, apparently my battery's dead. Oh, there we go. Kind of loud, but nobody cares when you're out in the country. So that ended up being pretty useful.
Do you change your tire pressure multiple times during a ride?
Exactly. That's why I had this big one, because you're hardly ever going to be on gravel all the time. You're usually going between hard road and gravel because you have to ride hard road to get to gravel or something like that. So I would go, multiple times up and down. It doesn't take very long. It's not terribly tedious. So that was a really handy thing. Well worth it. I also used a front fender to keep the gravel from hitting the frame of my bike. I have a rear fender on it now because I put that on just recently. But the front fender helps, keep the rocks from hitting me and the bike because you will pick up rocks. Even though these aren't really very knobby, I still would pick up rocks and throw them. I like to have music with me when I ride. I don't like to use earbuds, but with this thing, I could have really good audio quality. Doesn't fall off. I can still hear the surrounding environment, including other cars. And I can play this for you later. It has really good sound quality. This is the Monster Boomerang. It's a really handy dandy device. Another useful thing on this project was a handlebar bag. And the handlebar bag has a window on top, so I could put my route map there. So as I mentioned earlier, I would print out a map of the route I intended to take that day, and then I could put it there and consult it whenever I needed to. Even then, every now and then, I would have to stop, get up my phone, Google Maps, and make sure I was where I wanted to be, because you don't want to end up off route and waste time.
But you didn't download routes onto Garmin to follow the turn-by-turns and all that stuff?
I don't do that because, well, partly because it doesn't always work, right? You have roads that don't exist. And that was the most disappointing part about that. I plan a route, and then I get there, and that road doesn't exist anymore. So, well, what do I do now? I'd have to change it. So I'm kind of old school that way. Yeah, I would not use turn by turn. I would use a paper map, which is kind of old and dorky, but that's the way I am. And also, handlebar bag, I could carry extra stuff, granola bars and toolkit and things that I would always typically take anyway. So as I mentioned, Lewis County is not very big, 511 square miles, especially compared to counties in the western U.S., which are gigantic by comparison. This is a really small one. It's only about 21 miles north to south and 24 miles east to west. It's not very large. I could never find a real number for this, so for one of the first times ever, I consulted an AI, which said there was about 1,000 miles of roadway in Lewis County, which sounded reasonable given, the amount of area we had. And I did almost 1,000 of those on the old Poseidon, so that was a good chunk of it. And I estimated, more or less, I rode 1,900 miles to complete it. So that's 1,900 miles to do 1,000, because you always have to go over some roads over and over to get to where you want to start your route. So there was that, plus all the dead ends. You got to ride them twice, right? The only 2 times I was stopped by people was when I was on a dead end. So I'm riding out by Monticello, I'm riding north, and I see all these sheep coming out of their pen and running across the road into a cornfield. So I stopped, knocked on the door, guy comes out, I'm like, dude, your sheep are out, they're in the cornfield. He's like, oh yeah, they do that every morning. So apparently he was feeding his sheep on the neighbor's corn, but anyway, He didn't seem to think it was a big deal, but he's like, "What are you doing out here?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm taking a bike ride." He goes, "Well, it's a dead end road." I'm like, "Yeah, I have to ride the damn thing twice." And the other time I was out, gosh, um, north part of town, north part of the county, riding down Dannon Road, and a guy comes riding up on me in an ATV, and he's got a 30-30 lever action across the rack of his ATV. I'm like, "Oh, this is not good." So I stop and I start talking to the guy, same thing. "It's a dead end road." I'm like, "Yeah, I know, I gotta ride it twice." And I told him what I was doing, and then he seemed to get interested, and then he asked me where I lived. He knew where I lived, he had been a postman, he knew the guy that lived there before me, you know. You know how it
We're
is around
best
here.
buddies after that.
And we were best buddies, exactly. So that worked out well. So if you do something interesting in Lewis County, you just write your own article about it, send it to the Presby's Journal, and they'll publish it. So that's what I
We'll
did.
publish exact every typo that
Word
you
for
put in,
word,
and
yeah,
it's
so-
there, and
Yeah. So all the quotes are fake. You know, I just made that up. But I didn't send them a picture, so they used a previous picture when I was giving a talk on cicadas for the garden club. So there was that. And the article is online if you have a subscription. I do have a photo gallery. I forgot about that. I have a photo gallery with other pictures of it if you want to see those. And that's all, except I did design a century for Lewis County if you want to do that. I'll
It's
probably
fun.
do it again this year.
It's a good one.
It's fun. It almost killed me last time.
It almost killed me every time, but that's what makes it.
It's very hilly. It's a very challenging century, but it's kind of.
And you're always going to have headwind at some point, and tailwind.
Yeah, because you're going in a circle, so you know.
It's a good one. It's completely in Lewis County, and it's all on paved roads,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it really does highlight a lot of the areas. So
Take your word for it.
See,
kind of love to hate it.
goes right past Chris and Tracy's house.
Snacks and stuff.
All right.
So if we stop for lemonade.
What's stop
Two of my favorite motorcycling roads in there.
Oh yeah, that's good. What's that? E.
that's actually a road that I rode.
Deer Ridge, and then whatever the letters are on the one up in the corner there.
Y.
Oh, Kirk, yeah.
E. Y.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thank you very much.